Do-do, do-do. Good evening, Kitty Q. How are you doing today? Scott B, Lemon Pie, good evening to both of you. Welcome to tonight's trivia. All the content tonight we are doing trivia on Mark David Chapman. Good. Scott B is doing good. Good. Sal, good evening, Sal, and welcome to tonight's trivia. Trust that you had a wonderful weekend. Gonna give a couple more minutes. Wait for people to pop in here. I didn't do much at all of anything this past weekend. Just relaxed. Nine now. Pigeon Mac. Good evening, Pigeon Mac. Welcome to tonight's trivia. Paul Hudson. Good evening, Paul. Welcome to tonight's trivia night. All the trivia questions tonight are on Mark David Chapman tonight. One more minute. Henchy held. Jerusalem in the house. Good evening, Henchy. Welcome to tonight's trivia. I hope that you had a wonderful weekend. If you're new here and you've never played trivia with us before, all the questions, 18 questions in total, are all multiple choice questions displayed on the screen. And you can keep track of how many you get right if you want to. You don't have to. You can give yourself a letter grade at the end of it. But they're all multiple choice questions, all of them. And in between some of the questions, there's extra little tidbits of information about the actual person we're doing the trivia about. Did you know sections? Cheryl, good evening. Welcome to tonight's trivia. Cement Shoes, you as well. Welcome to tonight's trivia. I hope you both had a wonderful weekend. Alrighty. Carly. Carly is here. Good evening, Carly, and welcome to tonight's trivia. Mark David Chapman. And yes, I know that the picture that is used in the background, I was informed of this by quite a few people who pointed out that's not actually Mark David Chapman. That is Jared Leto, the actor who played Mark David Chapman in the movie. I was aware of that beforehand. So, yes, that is David Leto. All right. Trying to get myself in my little window here. There we are. Hello, my little window. All right. I have to read this off for every stream I do and content that I do now because I stream to multiple different platforms. None of the content that I make and have on anything on this channel is made for all audiences, and it's certainly not made for those under the age of 18. Matter of fact, everything that I stream is marked 18 years of age and over. If someone under the age of 13 or 18 and under is viewing this content, it is because they are using someone else's account. All of the platforms, Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, X, all of them, have parental restrictions in place. Now, not all this content is meant for all audiences either. Some people who are squeamish or get easily upset would probably not, enjoy the trivia night that we're about to, have. So viewer discretion is strongly advised. Basic rules of the trivia if you're new here. We are only playing for fun. No one is any better at this game than anyone else. Hateful or degrading remarks towards another person playing will get you timed out and then banned from this channel. There are 18 questions, including 2 bonus questions that are not numbered. So 16 numbered questions and 2 bonus questions. These questions are not exploitative of the victims or the families. These are for educational purposes only. And with that said, let's get the first question up on the screen. The first question number 1. As a teenager, Mark had a few odd jobs in and around the Decatur, Georgia area. His first real job where he collected a paycheck was as a counselor. What business or group was this with? Was it A, Young Americans Association, B, the YMCA, C, the Republican National Committee, or D, Mountain Lions Incorporated? Where did he work and collect his first real paycheck? I'm in the best not being better than anybody else. Decatur, Georgia. One of the many places that he lived. Chad Daybell's fan club. But Mark's family moved several times during his lifetime growing up. Do you announce who the trivia is going to be on? I'd like to study. Carly, yes. Tomorrow morning before 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time on my actual YouTube channel on the community tab, I post a trivia question and I tell everyone the Monday before what the upcoming trivia is going to be on. So check my community tab tomorrow and you'll know what next Sunday's trivia is going to be on. All right, question number 1. What business or group was he first employed with where he received his first real paycheck? The correct answer is B as in boy, the YMCA. He was counseling young Vietnamese refugees. Yes, Mark David Chapman was a paid employee of the YMCA counseling young Vietnamese refugees in whatever they needed help with. It wasn't the psychological help, obviously, because he had a couple screwed loose himself. But all right. Question 2. By January of 1979, Mark David Chapman's behavior was becoming more and more alarming to his family and friends. He would rant on and on about the government in Hollywood for hours. His new job didn't help at all. Instead of them restricting his work, they gave him what at work? Was it A, more hours and stress? B, a handgun? C, a more dangerous duties? It should be just more, not a more duties. It should just be more dangerous duties. Or D, a billy club and martial art classes. What did his job give him by January of 1979, when Mark was behavior was becoming more and more alarming? E, the complete collection of Jersey Shore. Jersey Shore season 1 DVD. January of 1979. Just a situation in a Chippendales outfit. That's a good one, Pigeon Mac. Oh, that would probably be a lot more things to rant about there, huh? January of 1979. Mark David Chapman. Do, 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 do. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. The correct answer to question 2 is A as in apple. More people had quit the job where he worked, and they gave him more hours and more stress, which sent him even into a deeper, darker rantings in his life. And he wrote about these rantings and ranted to his family and friends who were becoming very disturbed by his fixation, particularly on the government and Hollywood actors and actresses. He had a real thing for them. Did you know Mark David Chapman's father and mother were both in the United States Navy? Matter of fact, that is how the two of them met. They met at a dance. That's how they originally first met each other and were introduced. All the women at this dance, at the time when they met, had to dance with each of the officers who were at the dance hall. So they paid the officers paid for each dance. So they would go around. There were like 5 women for like 20 men. So they would have to each person would, oh, I'll dance with this guy, then this guy, and this guy. But that's how Mark David Chapman's mother and father met for the first time. Hello, Gemma. Welcome to tonight's trivia. All right, question number 3. Dated May 23rd, 1978, Mark David Chapman made a list he had every intention of completing during his lifetime. What was this bucket list of? Was it A, new skills to learn, B, women he wanted to sleep with, C, people he wanted to kill, or D, short stories he wanted to write? Dated May 23rd, 1978. Mark David Chapman made a list he had every intention of completing during his lifetime. What was this bucket list of? We got B, C's. Carly and Cheryl are both going with C, along with Sal. C, C, and C. Inner Peas, welcome to tonight's trivia. And thank you for putting the link up for Gemma's channel. QTQ D? Question mark? E, tap dancing routines to masters. Mountain Lion Club he wanted to raise and train. Oh. If you're new here and you don't get the reference of mountain lions, yugos, and methamphetamines, it's kind of like all an inside joke. We're here to have fun. Just remember that. Learn something new and have fun. F, colors of Yugos he wanted to drive. I hope you're doing well, Inner Peas. I hope you had a wonderful weekend as well. All right, question 3. Dated May 23rd, 1978. Mark David Chapman made a list he had every intention of completing during his lifetime. What was his bucket list of? The bucket list was C as in cat, people he wanted to kill. I'm going to move to the full screen here. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to read off the list of people that Mark David Chapman wanted to kill. Number 1, and these were all listed in order from most to least, that he wanted to kill. So the number 1 was the person he wanted to kill the most. Number 1 was Johnny Carson, the Tonight Show host. Elizabeth Taylor, the actress. Number 3 was John Lennon. Number 4 was J.D. Salinger. Number 5 was George C. Scott. Number 6 was Jacqueline Kennedy. Number 7 was Walter Cronkite, the former news host. Number 8 was Marlon Brando. Number 9 was Red Skelton, the comedian. And number 10 on the list was his own father. These are the 10 people that he wanted to kill. And he dated it, and he kept that note with him at all times. He ripped it out of his notebook. But those are the 10 people he had every intention on killing. He skipped down to number 3 because John Lennon was easily accessible in New York, and everybody knew where he lived. A lot of fans used to hang outside of the Dakota, apartment complex, get autographs, take pictures with him and Yoko. It was very, very well known that he was easily approachable. And of course, that's what ended up, costing him his life. Mark David Chapman got an autograph from him earlier in the day and then just stayed there while John Lennon and Yoko went out to dinner. And then when he came back, they just like, oh, that's the guy I gave the autograph to earlier. And as he walked past him, he shot him in the back. So, in case you're not familiar with who Mark David Chapman is, he is the assailant who killed John Lennon, the former Beatles member. All right, back to the trivia. Gotta go burp, 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 burp. All right, question number 4. During his sentence, how many times has Mark David Chapman officially been denied parole? Was it A, 5 times, B, 22 times, C, 12 times, or D, 18 times? During his sentence, how many times has Mark David Chapman officially denied parole? Been officially denied parole? 144,000. Right? Pigeon Mac. He was obsessed with Catcher in the Rye, but he wanted to kill J.D. Salinger. Figure that one out. I don't know what he had against Marlon Brando or George C. Scott, but if you look at the list of all 10, I mean, the only one that would be really personal would be his father, number 10 on the list. Been to the Dakotas. It used for the film Rosemary's Baby. Oh, was that where they filmed that? Rosemary's Baby? Wow. Excuse me. How many times during his sentence has Mark David Chapman been officially been denied parole? Question number 4. Rosemary's Baby, though, that was a great movie. Mia Farrow, great movie. I thought everybody liked Walter Cronkite, right? I don't, I don't, but oh, again, I was saying that of the 10, I mean, his father was probably the only one on the list that was personal, but each and every one of them were famous, or very popular in 1978. Johnny Carson's Tonight Show was very popular. Elizabeth Taylor, one of the most popular actresses of her time. Jacqueline Kennedy, I mean, news, radio, authors, music. You know, he really rallied against and railed about Hollywood and their influence on the world and people being too rich and too famous. All right, question number 4. The correct answer is C as in cat. 12 times he was denied parole. And a lot of it is because he refused. He was given a sentence of 20 years to life with the possibility of parole. And he refused in the earlier years to take any responsibility and kept on every time the parole board, came up every 2 years to actually see if he was eligible for parole. He would rally up, and go on and rant about he did it because God wanted him to do it instead of taking any responsibility. Instead of like the rubber stamp, deny over and over again, 12 times. Did you know Mark David Chapman took a trip around the world in 1978? While on this trip around the world, he started to make a list of people who are too famous or people who he believes to have too much money, which he would later call his kill list. And that I went through the 10 people who are on that list. I don't know what the deal is with his father, but you know why he was on the list, but he called it his kill list. Next, question 5. Before Mark David Chapman finally made the decision to kill John Lennon, how many times did he travel to New York and wait outside of Yoko and John's apartment at the Dakota apartment complex? Was it A, 4 times, B, 5 times, C, 1 time, or D, 3 times? AKA too dark or zombie like? And yes, early birthday, Gemma. It's Wednesday. Wednesday is her birthday. How many times did Mark David Chapman go to New York and wait outside of John and Yoko Ono's apartment? I have an interesting fact about Robert Brando and Chapman. I'll mention it at the end. Okay. Well, thank you, Cement Shoes. I think David Bowie was also on that list. Uh, there were 2 lists. One that the list where he wrote down people who were too famous, and then he made the official list that he ripped out of the notebook and he put in his pocket. And he used to carry it in his wallet. The list of those 10. But there were 2 lists, and I don't know if Bowie was on there. Probably I would assume so in 1978. But I mean, Bowie would definitely be someone who was very popular. So I wouldn't be surprised by that at all, Paul. I would not be surprised. Before Mark David Chapman finally made his decision to kill John Lennon, how many times did he travel to New York and wait outside of Yoko Ono and John's apartment at the Dakota apartment complex? Question 5. The correct answer is D as in dog. 3 times. He went to New York with the intentions to kill John Lennon, and he called his wife, who convinced him to come home and to not act on his desire to kill John Lennon. He then flew back to Hawaii to be with his wife. And then I think it was like not even a week later, he flew back to New York. The first time he went to the apartment complex, he could not find John Lennon or Yoko Ono because they were out of town. But he came back a couple of days later, and that's when he saw he purchased the album with the ruse that he was going to get John Lennon to sign his double fantasy album, and then he was going to shoot him right then and there. When he finally did approach John Lennon to sign his double fantasy album, he did not have the courage that, at that time to actually shoot him. So he waited and stayed there. He did leave to go get, lunch, but then came back, and that was the third time, and he shot John in the back as they walked past him in going into the apartment complex. So 3 times. But did you catch that, what I told you? He called his wife and told her what he had planned on doing, and she didn't alarm the bells to anyone. My husband just took off and flew from Hawaii to New York to kill John Lennon. Maybe I should tell the authorities about this, but she didn't. And that whole thing could have been stopped if she would have done something. Question 6. During his lifetime in prison, how many death threats has the Bureau of Prisons, that's what BOP stands for, Bureau of Prisons, received yearly up to the year 2001? How many death threats have been given against Mark David Chapman? Is it A, 20 a year, B, 40 a year, C, 60 a year, or D, over 100 a year? How many death threats has the Bureau of Prisons received yearly up to 2021, which is the last year they stopped tracking them because they got so many. Now they just file them away with the rest of them and don't even bother to count them anymore. But how many death threats against Mark David Chapman has the Bureau of Prisons received every single year? We got D, D, and D, and D. Over 100. Pigeon, Mac, Kitty Q, Sal, and Cheryl say it's all D. Paul's going with D, and Carl's going with D as well. And by the way, in prison, he has been in protective custody the entire time that he has been in prison. They can't put him anywhere near general population because he would have been a dead man that they would have put him anywhere near general population. There are a lot of people who'd love to kill him just so they could say, hey, I killed the guy who killed John Lennon. Is he in Attica prison? That's not far from where you live, Carly. I'm not sure where he is. I'm not sure. I would have to actually look it up. I don't think. Well, Sing Sing is in New York as well, isn't it? Dee, 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 dee. How many death threats has the Bureau of Prisons received yearly up to the year 2021 when they stopped counting them all? I know where he is, but don't know if it's a question. No, it's not a question on the trivia, Kitty Q. Do you know where he is? Put him in the trash. All right, question 6. How many death threats did they receive yearly up to 2021 when they stopped counting them? The correct answer, ladies and gentlemen, is C, as in cat. 60 death threats against him every single year from the time of his conviction and incarceration up to 2021 when they stopped counting them. I know where he was held. I'll say LOL. But 60 death threats a year. And these are not just idle threats. They're other inmates who, have said that they will kill him, or they've been hired to kill him, or they want to kill him. The really credible death threats against Mark David Chapman's life. And I would guess that they have to investigate each and every one of them if there's any possibility that these people who have made threats against his life would have any chance of getting near him. I don't even know that maybe they're by other inmates in the prison. Don't know. That part's not listed on the actual report. Doctor called it Prochin. He's in Greenhaven. All righty. Now we know where he is, huh? Greenhaven. October 23rd, 1980, Mark David Chapman quit his job and he signed himself out as John Lennon on October 23rd, 1980, when he quit his job. Every day they had to write their name when it came into work, at the time that you came in and logged in, and when you punched your time card, and then you have to do the reverse as you left. On that day, he signed himself out as John Lennon. On October 27th, 1980, Mark David Chapman is back in New York and buys a handgun, but no one will sell him bullets. So he flies to Atlanta, Georgia to buy bullets. On December 6th, 1980, Mark David Chapman flies back to New York and starts to put his plans in motion. Only his wife, Gloria, knows where he went and what he did between October 27th and December 6th, 1980. The FBI believes that he was stalking one of the other people on the list of, and obviously it would have been 9 because he knew exactly where his dad was by that point. But they believe he was probably stalking, at least trying to, get close to one of the others. But where was he? Nobody knows. Only she knows where he was between October 27th and December 6th, and she didn't talk to anyone. All right, next question. This is Mark David Chapman's prison ID photo taken in February of 2022. It took some effort to get him to take this picture. Why? According to the Bureau of Prisons spokesman, was it A, he was denied parole minutes earlier, B, he was in poor health at the time, C, the guards were playing the song Imagine, or D, his wife just divorced him? This is the most recent prison ID photo of Mark David Chapman, taken in February of 2022. Which is 20 miles from me. Now he's at Greenhaven, Rikers, while awaiting trial. He was in a portal with Chad. Oh, the imaginary portal of Chad and Lori. You can go anywhere. I have my papers, but it's all over the place. He had a hard day's night. Did John write that song for the Beatles, or was that a McCartney tune? That's an interesting question. Hard Day's Night. Who wrote that song? Was it Paul or John? This is Mark David Chapman's prison ID photo taken February of 2022. It took some effort to get in to take this picture. Why? According to the Bureau of Prison spokesman, the answer to question 7 is A as in apple. He was denied parole. And every time that he has been denied parole, you're not going home. So now you need to take a new prison ID photo. And it's usually scheduled right after the parole hearing. There's no reason to take one if you're getting parole. So they take the prison photo for their ID after they're actually, if they're denied parole. Ricard, just joining in, everybody. I had to drive today. I'm stuck in traffic just before Albuquerque. I'll just be listening. Traffic has completely stopped. Thanks a bunch for the accidents and construction. Well, you stay safe out there, Ricard. Just listen along. All right, next. Question 8. As far as anyone has ever been able to prove, the killing of John Lennon was the one and only violent act Mark David Chapman ever committed against another human. So why were so many people scared of him before he killed John Lennon? Was it A, he was a true crime YouTuber? B, he screamed at strangers for no reason? C, he openly talked about aliens daily? Or D, he ranted about wanting to kill people? As far as anyone has ever been able to prove, the killing of John Lennon was the one and only violent act Mark David Chapman ever committed against another human. So why were so many people scared of him before he killed Lennon? E, he read all the Dave Bell books. That'd drive you insane. Mark David Chapman. D, D question mark, D. And Paul's going with D as well for question 8. Why were people afraid of Mark David Chapman? Chad and Mark are having Bible study with one another through the portals in their cells. That's a good one, Carly. Question 8. The correct answer to question 8 is, matter of fact, D as in dog. He ranted about wanting to kill people with friends and family and anyone that he could get to sit still long enough for him to talk about his hatred towards Hollywood, the government, and anyone who was famous. He would just rant on for hours, kind of like one of those, crazy people you see sitting on a park bench who just rallies about, goes on and on and on about nothing, or that coworker that just won't shut the hell up and telling you about their pet or their children or whatever it might be. They're just like, okay, all right, thank you. Well, okay, all right. He would just go on and on and on about it and constantly, but yet nobody stopped him. I'm sure he was fun at parties, right? Poor old Pod. Right car and traffic has stopped, so he is guessing B. All right, next one. This is our break time, ladies and gentlemen. Rykart, we're on break for the next 6 minutes. Every night, if you're new here, at halfway through the trivia, we take a 6-minute break. Go get yourself something to eat or drink or do whatever you need to do for the next 6 minutes. We will be back after the 6-minute break. Read a Chad Daybell book. Read a chapter. I mean, if you read the first 2 pages of any of his books, you pretty much get the gist of what the entire book is about. And yes, there are copies of it where you can read PDF versions of his books online without having to spend money on them. I don't think they're legal copies, the ones that are on the internet. They're like photos, scans of his actual books. People want to read them. That's a good one. I'm sure he was fun at parties. Reminds me, I gotta flip the page. Question 9. Yes, I write all these out on paper. The question, the answers, all of it. I'm an analog man living in a digital world. The Israeli attack. I haven't read enough about it, Rykart. I caught a little blip of it earlier, but we will now take our scheduled 6-minute break. Scary says interpees. I am enjoying an ice cold Deja Blue purified drinking water tonight. My wife bought these at the airport and they never opened them, so well, I'm going to drink them. They bought them when they landed back at SeaTac. They bought them, and obviously not. You can't buy something with that many fluid ounces and take it on a plane because they're 1-liter bottles. I think that would be over the maximum. Kitty Coo's enjoying a beer. There you go. So sad. Little bit less than 3 minutes left, ladies and gentlemen, before the break is over with. Robert Bardo wrote Chapman a letter, and Chapman said Bardo was the craziest person he'd ever heard from and asked him not to write back. Wow. That's Robert Bardo and Chapman asked him, Bardo was the craziest person he ever heard, and asked him not to write back. That's insanity right into insanity. There's a large collection of letters that from Mark David Chapman and to his wife and Gloria, and other letters that where he wrote to other people that are from Mark David Chapman that are in the Murder Museum in Los Angeles, California. In case anybody ever wants to go to the murder museum there, they have a collection of his letters that they've acquired from people that he's written to, and letters that they've they gotten through, I guess maybe from Mark David Chapman himself, letters, their correspondence between him and Gloria. I made it. Rayanne, welcome. I made it though. I have had missed it. Oh, we're on break for one more minute. Killed Rebecca Schaefer, the actress. I know. My Sister Sam was the TV show that Rebecca Schaefer was on when she was murdered. For anyone who doesn't recognize the name, he was an obsessed fan. Murder Museum in L.A. I think Serial Killer Museum in New Orleans. There are a couple different ones around the United States, Kitty Q. I think there's one in Las Vegas as well. It's like a crime museum there. But the one in Los Angeles, that one's actually owned and operated by I always get his name screwed up. But his brother was a musician, a punk rock musician, but his brother's dead. But he's been on the guy who owns that museum and operates it. He's been on Soft White Underbelly. I've seen it. It's been a while since I saw the actual interview with him, but I'm not sure if they actually wrote him back or just said that's to the guards. All right. Well, we're back from break, ladies and gentlemen. Question number 9. What hobby did Mark David Chapman take up in prison because he said, God told me to? What hobby? Was it A, painting, B, poetry, C, the banjo, or D, writing short stories? What hobby did Mark David Chapman take up in prison because he said God told him to? Sure if he actually wrote them. Oh, I already read that one. Rayanne is going with D. Lemon Pie going with A. All D. D? Question mark. Collecting Beanie Babies. Oh man, I knew so many people who got involved in deeply into collecting Beanie Babies. Now they're all worthless. Some of these people had thousands of them. Making license plates for Yugos. The good ones to then choose. Making license plates for Yugos. Carly's going with D, writing short stories. What hobby? See, we know that Ed Kemper took up pottery. Gacy, he took up painting, although he did paint before he went to prison as well. Short stories. Can't think of anybody that I mean, I'm sure that each and every one of these has been, killers have come up with, or serial killers or killers and people have committed murder, have taken up as hobbies. But Kemper definitely took up pottery. Gacy took up painting. But what hobby did Mark David Chapman take up? Ladies and gentlemen, for question 9, the correct answer is C as in cat. Playing the banjo in the prison band. He took up banjo. Before going to prison, Mark David Chapman already knew how to play the guitar. He wasn't very good at it, but he took up taking the banjo. And the group of inmates who were there where he's incarcerated took up the banjo. And then there's another guy who plays a soapbox, which is like a made-up instrument, like dong 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 dong, picking instrument. So they're kind of like grassroots band, I guess you could call them. But banjo, they have a banjo, yeah. Took up playing the banjo. Doink, 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 doink. Question 10. Believe it or not, Mark David Chapman actually gets conjugal visits with his wife every single month, as long as she is there. How long do they get to spend each time between the sheets and visits? And that is a picture of Mark David Chapman and his wife in the actual apartment there on the property where he is housed. How many hours do they get for each time she comes to visit him? Is it A, 10 to 15 hours, B, 40 to 45 hours, C, 50 to 55 hours, or D, 60 to 65 hours? Is he good at it? I mean, he has that time and has time on his hands, right? I don't know, Rayanne, if he's good at playing the banjo or not. I mean, he wasn't that great of a guitar player. He played the acoustic guitar, but believe it or not, Mark David Chapman actually gets conjugal visits, and that is his wife. You got B, A, and B, 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 B. The only conjugal visit that he should get is with Big Bubba. Oh, gross. Question number 10. How many hours do they get each time she comes? Wonder why they give them that seriously. Because they, I don't know, because it keeps inmates from going insane. People like connections. They like to feel loved, even if they've killed someone in the past. I mean, he's going to get out eventually. There are other, I mean, was it 70% of all inmates, eventually get out, though, even those who have been sentenced to murder for, committing a murder, they get out. You don't want to make them complete lunatics, while they're in prison. I mean, he might have been a lunatic before he went. I don't think they still give them, but I don't know. Big Bubba and Night Train. All right, question 10. The correct answer is B as in boy, 40 to 45 hours. Most of their visits lasted right around 44 hours. She does not come to see Mark David Chapman anymore because she is deceased. She is gone. She died. Died. And it wasn't Mark David Chapman's fault. But Carly, I don't know if they still offer conjugal visits there where he is, but he's not getting them from her because she has passed away. All right, next. During a psychological examination prior to his trial for killing John Lennon, Mark David Chapman blamed his rage and reason for killing Lennon not on that he had too much money and was too famous. He blamed it on his father instead, until another inmate told him to blame it on God instead. He would stick to that story for the next 20 years. For the next 20 years, he blamed it on God for the reason why he killed John Lennon. Now, wait a minute. I don't get that long between working children and grands. No. Do you guess it keeps them from being so aggressive? I'm sure that has something to do with it, Rayanne. Rayanna. He's using his paper towel roll now. Yeah, he's doing something. The old socks inside of a paper towel or toilet paper roll. All right, next question. Another picture of Mark David Chapman and his wife. Mark David Chapman was married to Gloria Abe. That's her maiden name was Abe. On the day that he shot and killed former Beatles member John Lennon, she never left his side. Mark, how many miles did she travel to see Mark in prison? Is it 1,872 miles round trip? B, 2,010 miles round trip? C, 5,105 miles round trip? Or D, 6,205 miles round trip to go see Mark David Chapman from her home, the home that they shared before he killed John Lennon? How many miles did she travel to go see her husband? Gloria Abe was her maiden name. C's, I got some B's. A. Paul's going with B. Question 11. Did she believe he was guilty, or did she just stand by her man? Oh, she knows he's guilty. He confessed to it, to her, to his attorney, to the court, to the law enforcement. There's never been any question about his guilt or innocence. Matter of fact, during the actual trial itself, he put an end to it and said, and in the middle of it, and just said, "No, I want to plead guilty." And they were like, "What? No, I want to plead guilty." He could have gotten, if he didn't even give his attorney a chance to work out some kind of deal for pleading guilty. He just like, "Nope, no, I'll just plead guilty." But he talked about wanting to kill Lennon. He flew there twice, went to the actual Dakota apartment complex 3 times. I think we all should be happy that, not that Lennon was the only victim, but he could have killed all those other people on the list. Question 11. The correct answer is, how many round trip miles did she fly to visit Mark David Chapman each time? The correct answer is B as in boy. 2,010 miles she would fly round trip to see Mark David Chapman. Now, she wasn't flying directly from Hawaii to where his, New York, like LaGuardia or whatever, but that is the total amount of miles that she flew. How did she afford this? Well, the same way that she met Mark, how she met Mark David Chapman. Mark David Chapman came into her actual business where she worked and was employed at the time. She didn't own the business at that time, but she did later on buy the business. And she was a travel agent. And Mark came in to buy his ticket to travel around the world. And that's how the two of them met. And as a travel agent, she saved up all those air miles and everything else to fly to see him. She didn't do it all that much, but she did enough, usually once every other month. She would fly from her home to California, visit family there, and then she would either fly from New Mexico or she'd fly from Arizona to the East Coast of the United States. But the round trip, flying directly just to see Mark David Chapman, was 2,010 miles each time. Round trip. She must have had a few screws loose. Oh, yeah. Yeah. She had some screws loose. But she loved him. By all accounts, they were in love. Question. Next one. Why did it stop? There we go. Question 12. Mark David Chapman has been a very prolific songwriter behind bars. How many total songs did he tell 60 Minutes in the TV show that he has written? How many songs has Mark David Chapman written while he's been incarcerated? Is it A, 50 complete songs with music? B, 80 complete songs with music? C, 30 complete songs, no music? Or D, 30 complete songs with music? How many songs did Mark David Chapman write while he's been incarcerated? Did he tell 60 Minutes that he has written? Is that picked from the conjugal visits? Yes, lemon pie. This where he is sitting in that chair is the conjugal visit apartment. I think there's three units that were used to be there, or if they're still there, there are three of them, and one inmate and their spouse. They had to be their spouse. Couldn't just be someone you picked, who writing you. You had to be married to them. But there are three. I think there are three apartments on the property where they use them for conjugal visits. They're not next to each other either. So, and you're not allowed to leave. They lock you inside. It's not like you can go walking around with your significant other, when you get done with, doing your business. You're locked inside. Just Single Ladies by Beyonce. Jersey Shore theme song. Carly is going with C. Rayanna is going with C as well. Sal's going with A. How many songs did Mark David Chapman write? He's been a very prolific songwriter behind bars. Question 12. The correct answer is A as in apple. 50 complete songs with music is what he told 60 Minutes that he has written while he's been incarcerated. He has written 50 complete songs. Yeah, he killed John Lennon. And here he is trying to become a musician. 50 complete songs with music. Did you know all the following have been made about Mark David Chapman and his killing of John Lennon? 19 low-budget movies, 2 major budget movies. Last one starred Jared Leto. 14 songs by rock, metal, and 2 pop songs, 1 rap song. 11 books have been written about it. 109 short stories that have been published, and 23 TV miniseries or mini documentary series on TV have been done about Mark David Chapman killing of John Lennon. Since it happened in 1980, it's been all over the place. There have been, I see there rock bands, metal bands that have referenced, the killing of Lennon. 19 low budget movies, 2 major budget movies. The last one starred Jared Leto. In case you're not familiar with him, well, I meant the A, obvious. Hello. All right. Next question, 13. Getting busy between the sheets with Mark David Chapman. How many children does he have as of 2000? Is it A, 8 children, B, 9 children, C, 2 children, or D, 3 children? How many children did Mark David Chapman and Gloria Abe have? How many children does Mark David Chapman have? Question number 13. Did he get money for all those movies, etc.? No, he got absolutely nothing because of the laws that are on the books. An inmate is not allowed to profit from their acts. Depending upon where you are, a lot of people refer to it as the Son of Sam Act, or there's actual laws, the federal laws that have been passed that an inmate cannot profit from their crimes. So he got nothing from any of that. And every time somebody mentions his name or does a trivia night about him, he ain't getting anything. How many children does Mark David Chapman have as of 2000? Q's going with C. Sal, D, Cheryl, Ray Anna is going with C. How many children? And the picture right there that is on the screen, that is Mark David Chapman as a baby and his father playing the banjo. But he never learned the banjo before going to prison. He learned how to play the acoustic guitar. So that is his father when Mark David Chapman was a young man, a very, very young man. I don't know, was probably 3 in that picture. Getting busy between the sheets with Mark David Chapman. How many children does he have as of 2000? Ladies and gentlemen, the correct answer is D as in dog. He has 3 children. Their names are Ben, Jesse, and Millie. 3 children. He had them all with Gloria Abe. He has had no other children with anyone else. He had no children with anyone, but when as a free man with anyone else, none as an incarcerated man with anyone else other than Gloria Abe. There was one man who was in his late 20s who came out and said that he was Mark David Chapman's, illegitimate child, but it was proven that the man had made up the entire story, and he was on an episode of the Maury Povich show. But it was proven later on that he made up the entire story and he was not related to Mark David Chapman at all. And it was impossible for him to have even fathered him. I'm sure what now, all these years later, since the Maury Povich show, when he was on there, that he actually could have fathered him because they know exactly where Mark David Chapman was at the time in 1978. And he was not anywhere near where his mother lived at the time of residency. So, and he admitted it later on that he made up the entire thing. But he had 3 children: Ben, Jesse, and Millie. What the hell would you make that up? Why would you make that up? People, Kitty Q. It's an actual psychological thing that a lot of people want to insert themselves into a major story. They want to feel connected and they want people to look at them and pay attention to them. It happens all the time. I can't even remotely tell you how many times I've done trivia nights or I've done a story, and for a video. If you read the comment sections, if I cover a serial killer or someone will say that they were either they were a victim of that serial killer and they got away. B, they're related to one of the victims. C, they know the actual serial killer and they met them, in some circumstance that gave them the creeps. Or D, that someone in their family had a brush or run in with the serial killer and got away at the last moment. Kind of like um, how I'll leave it there. But I get these comments all the time. And it's amazing how nobody else has ever been able to prove that these people are related to the serial killer or their friend or they got away from the serial killer. Nobody knows anything about these individuals, but people want to be connected. They want to be important. They want people to pay attention to them. So it happens. And now I'm not saying that they're all lies. Some of them very well could have been, the intended victim. Look at Debbie Harry, the singer from the band Blondie. She had a close encounter with Ted Bundy, and she could have very well become a victim of Ted Bundy's, but her radar went off. There was something wrong about the situation when she tried to, then get out of the car, and then when she was able to put her hand out through the partially rolled down window and open the door from the outside. She had enough, smarts about her. Otherwise, Debbie Harry would have been, one of Ted Bundy's victims. And that's a real, event. Even Debbie Harry has talked about it, not in great length, but she's told the story about how she got away from Ted Bundy. And there are other people out there who've escaped, the clutches of serial killers or killers. So, all right. Next. Question number 14. During his trial for killing Lennon, his lawyer was making an excellent argument that Mark was insane. Then it all fell apart. What happened next? Was it A, Mark threw papers all over the courtroom? B, Mark blew kisses to the jury members? C, Mark had his attorney withdraw his insanity? D, Mark refused to come back to court. During the trial for killing Lennon, his lawyer was making an excellent argument that Mark was insane. Then it all fell apart. What happened next? And this is another picture of a slightly older Mark David Chapman and his father. It would still freak me out, too. Yeah. I'd say my mother used a sperm bank. Chad Dable testified as a character witness. That's a good one to mention. You don't want to put Chad Dable on the witness stand as a character witness. That would pretty much sink any defense you have. He would not pretend to like the Jersey Shore. Oh, the poor Jersey Shore cast. One of these days, I got to watch an episode of the Jersey Shore just so I have a real reference. So I've seen a little bit of an episode, but I've never watched a complete episode. Question number 14. During his trial for killing John Lennon, his lawyer was making an excellent argument that Mark was insane. Then it all fell apart. What happened? What happened next? Kitiko, Ray Anna, and Paul are all going with C. Sal, C. Carly, C. Lemon Pie, C. You wouldn't pay me to watch that if it was down to my last dollar on earth. You couldn't pay some inches to watch any Jersey Shore. All right, question number 14. The correct answer is C as in cat. His attorney was making, a very good argument that Mark David Chapman was insane when he actually killed John Lennon because of his behavior that, and he had other people lined up, like the gun shop that sold him the gun in New York. but they still sold it to him. And they wouldn't sell him bullets, but they'd sell him a gun. Get that. Only in America, ladies and gentlemen. But they have like, nope, we're not selling you any bullets, but we'll sell you a gun. And every other gun store he went to or hunting store to buy bullets, no one would sell him bullets. So he flew to Atlanta, Georgia to buy bullets. But so at the day of the trial, they wrapped up for lunch that day, and when they came back, Mark David Chapman told his attorney to withdraw the defense of temporary insanity and that he was going to plead guilty, not even allowing his attorney to work out some kind of arrangement for a reduced sentence or anything. It's like, nope, I'm just going to plead guilty. But he told him to withdraw the insanity defense. But he was actually making real headway on a defense of insanity. Medgas guy, good evening. Welcome to tonight's trivia. He went insane in court and pleaded guilty. Yes, he did. If you want to watch people's lives spiral out of control and people making one bad decision after another, then yeah, Jersey Shore. Really, it's that bad, huh? All right, next. Mark David Chapman. Did you know Mark David Chapman was already on the radar of the FBI a year prior to him killing Lennon? A lot of people think they could have stopped him, but they chose not to because Lennon was a pain in the ass to the U.S. government. They seen him as a leader of the countercultural world. Yeah, give peace a chance is a chance for taking over the world and the U.S. government. Sarcasm. So you might be wondering, how did Mark David Chapman end up on the radar of the FBI? Because of his rantings and about wanting to kill Lennon and the other people on his kill list. And the FBI was following John Lennon and keeping tracks of him, along with the CIA. They were watching John Lennon and Yoko Ono very closely because, again, they believed them to be the leaders of the countercultural, world, and they saw them as a security risk in America. Yes, but they didn't go do anything about it, but they knew all about him. And it's in John Lennon's actual file. Mark David Chapman's name shows up there a year prior to him actually killing John Lennon. They could have stopped it, but they didn't. All right, question 15. In 1977, Mark David Chapman was living in Hawaii and had started a good life. Work and marriage was coming up. Had a home and was what changed by December of 77 that changed his life forever? Was it A, he started to hear voices in his head? B, he lost his job? C, he fell in love with another? Or D, he made up his mind to kill? In 1977, Mark David Chapman was living in Hawaii and had the start of a good life. Work, marriage was coming up, had a home. What changed by December of 77 that changed his life forever? He read the Daybell books. By December of 77. Question number 15. Rayanna and Sal and Carly are all going with D. I always wondered this myself. This is one of those questions that I always wondered about. What the hell happened? What makes a suburban father, man who's about to be married, was engaged to be married at that time. What made him decide, to go on this mission, or in this direction? Miss J, good evening. Welcome to tonight's trivia. Paul's going with D, Reichart D, and Eyes. Awesome. Glad you made it safe. Oh, did you make it through to Albuquerque or your destination? The Beatles are more popular than Jesus. I know this much. Growing up, my mother was never a fan of the Beatles at any point in her life. She was always an Elvis fan. In '77, 3 years later, he kills. It's just crazy. He started to breakdancing. Yes. All right. What happened in December of '77 that changed his life forever? It all came down to D as in dog. He made up his mind by December of 1977, almost a year and a half before he married Gloria, that he was going to kill. It was just, how can you get to which one of these people first? Number one, don't forget, was Johnny Carson was on the list, was number one that he wanted to kill the most. John Lennon was number 3 on the list, but he was the most accessible of all of the 10 that are on the list. I don't know why he didn't go start with his father. Was his father even alive? Why is his father on the list? I don't have the answers to any of that. Did he already have children by '77? No, a year and a half later. I misspoke by saying a suburban father. But I mean, he lives in Hawaii. How suburban can you be in Hawaii? Mine too. Aloha from Hawaii. She was just beside herself. Happy times. Something must have been a little wrong before '77. Well, Lemon Pie, he was ranting about the government and Hollywood for years before that. The oldest report that I could reference that I could find was 1974 is when he started to rant about the power and the influence that Hollywood had on the younger generation. Was in 19 was then. So that's almost what, six plus years, almost somewhere in there, around 6 years before he killed Lennon. He was ranting about Hollywood even then. But something made him decide, by December of '77 that he was going. That's it. I'm going down this path. This is what I'm going to do. And having a travel agent, as a wife, certainly didn't, keep him at home. How did he get put in a mental hospital? The is West Haven or Green Haven or whatever it is where he's at? Is that a mental hospital? Well, because I know he tried to kill himself once. Are we talking about earlier, before he killed Lennon? Because he was in the mental hospital briefly. That was actually not a mental hospital, like a standalone place, but he was in a mental ward because he tried to kill himself because he was suicidal. But I think that was somewhere, 78. But I don't quote me on that. I don't know what year that was. Could have been 76. Bellevue, I believe he went to. Don't know. I just know that he tried to kill himself once. Mark David Chapman wasn't just obsessed with the book Catcher in the Rye by John Lennon and John Lennon. He had become increasingly obsessed with what? Was it A, religious teachings again B. Doomsday prophecies. C. Mountain lion taming. Or D. The Jersey Shore cast members. Mark David Chapman wasn't just obsessed with the book Catcher in the Rye and John Lennon. He became increasingly obsessed with what? Maybe I'm thinking of Reagan's attempted assassination. That was Sirhan Sirhan. A lot of people think that Sirhan Sirhan was a conspiracy that the CIA put him up to it. Pretty big, conspiracy theory. A lot of people swear that they have they found information that says that they wanted Reagan out of the way. Of course, there's also people who believe that Kennedy assassination was, and that there's no possible way for Lee Harvey Oswald to get off 3 shots on a moving target like that. They've never been into the Marine Corps training grounds. Moving target that far away with a bolt action rifle, very possible. Very possible to get off all 3 rounds on a moving target at that distance. But people believe what they want to believe. Killed Bobby Kennedy. Hinckley shot Reagan. You're right. Thank you. That's my bad. Yeah, Sirhan, but they believe, again, the Sirhan, they believe is, he was set up, but he's out of prison. He's actually somewhere in the Los Angeles area, or at least he was in Orange County or Los Angeles County. He's living with like a distant relative after he had to be paroled to somebody. But Sirhan is out of prison. John Hinckley also had a copy of The Catcher in the Rye when he shot Reagan. But in the book, The Catcher in the Rye, Mark David Chapman started to sympathize with the main antagonist in the book, or one of them in the book. I think it was main antagonist or main character of the book. I don't know if you said but he was in a psych hospital, then got a job at the hospital. Yeah, Carly, as a security guard. Right? Think about that. You're in the psych ward. We know you're in something seriously wrong with your ass. Let's give them a job. 2023. All right. Question number 16. The correct answer is A as in apple. Mark David Chapman became a born-again Christian and started to study the Bible and read the Bible every day, and became obsessed with the religious teachings of being, a born-again Christian. It wasn't just The Catcher in the Rye and John Lennon that he was obsessed with at the time when he actually killed Lennon. He was going down that slippery slope of, like, psychologically, he was not there, obviously. But all right, next one. Did you know at the time in 1980 in New York City, they couldn't charge Mark David Chapman with first-degree murder. They could only charge him with second-degree murder for killing Lennon, which took the death penalty off the table. If he would have shot a cop and killed a cop, they could have, let me read that again. If he would have shot a cop and killed a cop, they could have, or a judge or someone else of importance besides John Lennon, wasn't considered to be important enough. At that time, the laws on the book said, unless they could prove premeditation, And they had to prove a lot of other things that he meant to go there, and that was his entire thing, the reason why he did it and everything else. But they never would have been able to go through. Well, Mark David Chapman stopped them before they could ever get to that point. So they changed it to second-degree murder, is what he was actually he pled guilty to, and was sentenced to 20 years to life in prison. But if he would have killed a cop or a judge or someone else of importance, a politician in New York, because every time I think about somebody killing a politician, I always think of like Harvey Milk, in California, which they didn't really care about either, unfortunately. Well, he told his wife, yeah, he definitely did. Told her before, and then she convinced him to fly home. And then he went back and did it anyways. But she's never wanted to talk about it. All right, bonus question number 1. Which one of the confirmed and diagnosed mental health issues has Mark David Chapman suffered from since he was 14 or 15 years old? Ladies and gentlemen, this is by his own confirmed, but he has been confirmed as an adult to have this. But he says he suffered from it from the age of 14 or 15. That is by his own words. Is it A, bipolar, B, manic depression, C, bipolar and manic depression, or D, delusions of grandeur? Which one of the confirmed and diagnosed mental health issues has Mark David Chapman suffered from since he was 14 or 15 years old? By his, again, I have to stress, he wasn't diagnosed at 14 or 15 years old. He was diagnosed as an adult while he was in prison. But he said he suffered from it from, as early on as 14 or 15 years of age. Gas guy, B, cement shoes, E, stupidity. Lemon pie, B, Carly, B, Sal, A, Kitty Coo, D, Paul is going with A. Lemon pie, E, Beatles mania. For the age of 14 or 15. Right, Anna is going with C. Which one of the confirmed and diagnosed mental health issues has Mark David Chapman suffered from since he was 14 or 15 by his own accounting? Which one is it? Bonus question time. Bonus question number 1. The correct answer, ladies and gentlemen, is C as in cat. Bipolar and manic depression. When he was in his manic depressive states, he had, someone who has manic depression has highs and really low lows, and really high highs and really low lows. But during one of his high points is when he decided on a whim, I'm flying back to New York to kill Lennon. That was the high point. And then the low point was when he got there and he had to purchase a gun. And then he was, obviously on that downward swing. And the gun shop actually sold him the gun, but wouldn't sell him the bullets because they thought he was going to kill himself, not necessarily someone else. So they're like, no, we'll sell you the gun, but not selling you the bullets. But he was obviously on that downward trajectory, but C as in cat, bipolar manic depression. All right, bonus question number 2. On his first trip from Hawaii to New York, Mark made one phone call to tell someone very important to him he planned to kill John Lennon. Who did he call? Was it A, his father, B, his best friend Stephen Hill, C, his former boss, or D, his wife Gloria. On his first trip from Hawaii to New York, Mark made one phone call to tell someone very important to him he planned to kill John Lennon. Who did he call? Got D, A, D, 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 D. Miss J is going. Must be D. Hey, who you gonna call? Ghostbusters! Nothing will ever beat the original Ghostbusters. That's a classic. I've never seen that when I was, I can't remember how old I was. Doesn't matter. But I remember seeing it going to go see it in the theater. Ghostbusters, the Ghostbusters mania that was going on around that time with all the movie tie-ins and everything. On his trip from Hawaii to New York, Mark made one call. Who did he call? Cheryl's going with D. Bonus question. The correct answer is D, as in dog. He called his wife, Gloria, that I had discussed earlier, to tell her exactly what he had planned to do, and she talked him out of it to fly home and not to act on his urges to kill John Lennon. But she never reported it to anyone. Why? Nobody knows. She just didn't do anything about it. So how well did you do tonight? This is completely optional if you want to give yourself a letter grade. Some do, some don't. Did you get 14, 18 correct? Getting better all the time? Did you get B, 8 to 13 correct? I was that close to perfection. C, 3 to 7, could have done better, still happy. D, 1 to 2 correct, I fell asleep and still got some right. Or E, is it mountain lion perfection as always? Each bonus question tonight is worth 1 point. Again, this is only for fun and entertainment. You do not have to give yourself a grade. It's optional. Some people like to. All the photos tonight are in the public domain except for the following: number 3, number 8, 15, and 16. The question that the number corresponds to the actual question. Number 3, 8, 15, and 16, which are the property of Getty Images. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, they love to take photos and get the copyrights of them. You cannot use them without a license, and that is my paid license number. My cost for those photos is $10 to use all of those images. I actually have more than just those 4. But I have an entire PDF that I can pick pictures from. But 3, 8, 15, and 16 cost me $10. The average Google AdSense revenue that I make from these things is about 96 cents to $1.15 per trivia night. But I hope you all enjoyed tonight's trivia. And I'm not telling you guys how much I make on these trivia nights because I'm asking you to give me your money. I'm just saying that's what it costs to actually, it all balances out in the end because I make money on the other videos and stuff that I do on the channel. But it costs $10 for a basic license from Getty Images. Is Sun Night always trivia? Yes, Miss J. Sunday night at 4 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, Pacific Daylight Time, whichever, same thing. But at 4 p.m. on Sundays. On Monday mornings before 10 a.m. on my community tab here on YouTube, I post a question and I allow a trivia question for the upcoming Sunday, so you'll know exactly what the topic or the person we're actually going to be doing trivia about. But that every Monday by 10 a.m. that question is posted. So you can if you decide that you want to read up on it or just answer that trivia question, it's up to you. Well, and everyone in the chat, it's been good. Well, thank you, Paul Hudson. I'm glad that you had fun. Thank you for being here with us tonight. See ya, Sal. Sal taking off. Good night, Sal. And thank you again. And you have a terrific week ahead, Sal. And everybody else who's taking off, I enjoyed this. Rayanna, good. I'm glad you enjoyed it. It's just a bunch of fun people sitting around and we're learning something else. Okay, I always tell people at the end of the night after trivia is over with, of the 18 questions, that's the 16 numbered questions and the 2 bonus questions, how many of them did I know the answer of before I put this trivia together? I knew exactly 5 out of the 18 questions. Apparently, I haven't spent a lot of time reading about Mark David Chapman or reading about, his wacky life and his crazy things that he's done. But I probably know more about Sirhan or, Hinckley, or some of these others. Definitely know a lot more about serial killers and cults. But I didn't read about, he's been on my radar. I mean, I just haven't spent a lot of time reading about him. But I knew 5 out of 18. That's not a very good grade. Chapman didn't fire the fatal shot. Anarchy Extra? Okay. That's true. The gun fired the fatal shot that killed John Lennon. Caught the tail end. Enjoyed it. Night all. You have a wonderful week ahead. Miss J, thank you for being here. Kitiku, I only knew 7. Well, see? Even the best of us can't know everything, can we? Today is October 8th. October 7th, October 8th. And this is from the Serial Killer Calendar, This Day in Killer History book. October 8th is Robert Andrew Bob Berdella, January 31st, 1949 through October 8th, 1992, was an American serial killer in Kansas, Missouri, who raped, tortured, and killed at least 6 men between 1984 and 1987. Berdella died of a heart attack in 1992 at Jefferson City Correction Center after writing letters to a minister claiming the officials were not giving him his heart medication. Also on for October 8th is Pedro Alonso Lopez. This is the man who killed all those damn girls, 80 girls, but claimed to have raped and killed more than 300 girls across his native country of Colombia. But you can buy this book on Amazon. This is not a paid affiliate, or anything. I get nothing from it at all. If you decide that you want to pick this book up, my good friend who is here in the stream with us tonight, Kitty Q, told me about the book, and I jumped at the chance to buy it because I find it very interesting. Even when I'm not doing these streams, I keep it right here on my desk, and I peruse through it when I have my downtime. Judah. Hi, Will and friends. Hello, Judah. MDC did not fire the gun that had a live round. Sorry, bud. It's deeper than that. Is it Anarchy Extra? By the way, I like the name Anarchy Extra. It's a good name. But okay, there's a lot of different conspiracies out there. A lot of people believe that one thing or another, and that I'm not telling you you're wrong. I don't know. I wasn't there, so I can only go by what is in the official reports about who killed John Lennon. If it was somebody else, maybe it was a CIA hit. Maybe Mark David Chapman was just the fall guy. I don't know. Maybe he dreamed up the entire thing, and for all those years beforehand when he was ranting about wanting to kill celebrities and people who were famous, maybe it was all made up. But I can only go with what I know and what I've been able to research and document. So the art in it is also good. Oh yeah, there's some great drawings in there. I just only thing that if I could, that's kind of misleading. It's like the cover, it's all it's in color, but all the pages are in black and white. Don't get me wrong. I mean, all the artwork works, in black and white, but when I first got it and I opened it up, that was the first thing, first impression was like, oh man, all the cover, and everything is in color, but all the pictures, artwork inside is in black and white. Which don't get me wrong, it still works. It adds a whole nother, meaning to it. So you kind of have to use your imagination of what the colors would have really looked like. And some of the ones that are on, like on the covers, all the pictures, that's what they look like in color, I would assume, because I've been able to pick them out, and some of them inside of it. Black and white, but would be amazing if it was in color. I agree. Maybe it was a mountain lion doing 144,000 miles an hour. Yeah. Well, I hope you had a terrific weekend, Judah. You've been doing well. So you guys still hear the squeaky ass chair? I oiled this thing the other day and it's still squeaky. They don't make chairs like they used to. And for what I paid for this stupid gaming chair, you'd think they'd be able to put like a greasing nipple on it so I could use a grease gun or something on it. So I ended up spraying lithium grease in there, but it still squeaks. I know that's annoying in the background. Squeaky Willie, the chair. Yeah, these damn gaming chairs. I bought this one for my wife originally, and then she bought another one. I can't remember the name of the company, but it was like $400 for the one that she has now that she uses. And this one was just sitting in the corner, and it had a box of that we keep on meaning to donate to like Goodwill, and it just sat there forever. But that like the box has moved now to the trunk of her car. We're going to eventually donate the clothes that my son has outgrown to Goodwill. So it's made it one step closer. So it's now out of the house and in the car, in the trunk. Didn't find the right squeaking part yet. Yeah. I sprayed down everything I could think of. I flipped the thing upside down on the table here, and I went through and tried to spray down everything that I could think of there and where the squeak could be coming from. But you're right, I haven't gotten it yet, or it hasn't penetrated it far enough into the into it to get rid of the squeak. I'll get to it though. If I have to dip the entire bottom half of this chair in a vat of 10W40, I will. God knows I got a 55-gallon drum of used motor oil. It's not completely full. It's about 3/4 of the way full. One step at a time. Yeah, but it annoys the hell out of me. I'm sorry for that though. Black and white. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to wrap up tonight's trivia night there. I hope that everyone has a terrific week ahead. Before you take off, hit the thumbs up button if you enjoyed tonight. If you don't want to, you don't have to hit the thumbs up button. If you didn't like it, give it a thumbs down. Whatever you decide to do, it's an interaction that shows at the algorithm that somebody enjoyed this content. So you'll be suggested this content in the future if you're new here. Well, if you want to subscribe, great. No pressure in it at all. God knows only 20% of all the millions of views that I get are from actual subscribers. So it's the way it works, I guess. But thank you again, everyone. I hope that everyone has a terrific week ahead and you stay safe out there. Again, Monday morning, 10 a.m., Pacific Standard Time. But before then, I will have a trivia question for next week, so you know what next week's trivia is all about. I do this every week. And Sunday night at 4 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. That's West Coast of the United States, in case you're wondering. So, Judd, change the time zone wherever you are, accordingly. But everyone, bye. Have a great week.